Can you guys hear me? Yeah, everyone can hear me? Okay, cool. So we're going to finish off the evening. I want to go through, just a breakdown of the third step, fourth step, and fifth step from our manuals. Chris has to boogie, so he has the girls, so he has to go do his thing. So I'm going to stay with you guys for a little bit longer, and we're going to break down the steps.
Let me ask you a question. How's everyone feeling as far as the amount of like screen time? Are your eyes doing all right? Yeah, feeling good?
Get crossing.
Okay, cool. I mean, this first virtual experience we've ever done, so I'm like, are they okay? Is everyone like dying a slow death inside, or are we good?
We're gonna go about 20 minutes, 30 minutes longer, 20 minutes longer, and then we'll call it for the night. Is that cool? All right, about 20 minutes, maybe
Okay.
30.
I'll see you all in the morning. Thank you all. Love you guys.
Namaste, bro.
Namaste. Okay.
Good luck, John.
What do you say, Phil?
Good luck.
Dude, you know.
You got this.
Low expectations, guys. We don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I do want to do? I'm gonna go ahead and break down tree now that Chris is out of here.
I do what I want.
I was like, no, we gotta do tree. He's like, no, we'll just wait. What the fuck? All right, so let's break down tree real fast. Because it's simple, I can do it. And I got no one holding me back now. I don't have my little brother. I'll pull that weight. All right, you guys ready? See you guys this evening. So tree, guys, tree's simple. Tree is one of those bridge poses. It's one of the last balancing poses before we transition into our inversions. Tree's optional, but what tree does is it gives you, like, if you're doing flow classes, if you start to build, if you're building in your sequences, you're kind of infusing arm balances. Tree gives you the ability to or if you're teaching a level 2 class, you can work from tree into some cool poses. So I'm not going to show those right now. Just I'm going to break it down, just break tree down. Very, very simple. My head's going to be cut off, but you guys can still hear me. So the very first part of tree, if somebody can't balance, what I want you guys to pay attention to is where my foot is, where my lifted foot is going to be in comparison to my grounded foot. So basically my grounded foot's going to be here and my ankle is going to be pressed up against it. So this is the very beginning. This is most modified version of tree. So you're going to have students that have trouble balancing. Where you want to put them is in this position. And then what they can do from here is lift the foot, and when they fall over, they can catch. Lift the foot and then catch. Lift the foot and catch. All right, so that's the very first stage of tree. Am I recording? Yeah. And so from there, then they can just lift the foot up. Once they start to get the balance, they'll just lift their foot up to the inner calf. They'll be able to hang out there. Once they get more open, they can go to the inner thigh. And then they can start to take the deeper version of holding on to the foot and letting that come out. This version starts to move into femur rotation, so it starts to get into the hip a little bit more. This doesn't have femur rotation; it just simply has the abduction, the abduction. Right? So it's still a good hip opener, but this has external rotation and abduction, so it's a little bit deeper into the hip. This also gives the ability to move into different like toe stands or arm balances and things like that. That's what I was talking about before. Now, once you're here and your balance is established, you can then, you guys imagine I was in tree here, you can then take the arms up, right? You can shift your gaze up, lift the heart, and do things like that, right? So you go right side, left side, hip opener, and then we take it to the floor. Is that helpful? Simple tree, right? Took less than 3 minutes. I don't know why he wanted to skip it. We'll yell at him in the morning though. Any questions about tree? Guys good? Okay, cool. All right, so that's the breakdown of that. The next thing.
Sign in the morning, we'll all be standing in tree just for Chris.
Like, WTF, Chris? So the next thing what we're gonna clinic in the morning is step 4. So we're gonna start to get into inversions, the whole breakdown of forearm balance. So the inversions are just 2 poses. So where we're gonna go is just literally 2 poses. It's forearm balance and handstands. It's those. So they're advanced, right? They're like let me say it this way. The deeper expression of those poses are advanced, but the build isn't as advanced. But what students tend to do is miss the build. They miss the beginning. They think their vision goes right to the last expression where they're actually in the air and they're like, oh, that's it. And they're like, it's like ride or die, baby. I can't do that. I can't do the forearm balance or do a handstand. And that's not the case. They need to understand, and it's our job as teachers to help them understand that if we can get them into a dolphin, which is down dog on the forearms, they are doing an inversion, right? And if they can hang out in dolphin, that's going to build the competency, right? The neurokinetic chain, right? The mind and the body. It's going to create the strength they need and the flexibility they need to eventually come upside down. And then there's the whole progression. So within that pose, within those 2 poses lie the whole step, because there's such a progression into the bigger experience of that. Does that make sense? Someone has a question in the chat. Let me check this real fast. Okay, cool. So we'll cover that tomorrow, because it definitely takes 2 people. I want you guys to see some specifics, some details with it, especially when we go upside down and show that. I feel like I have the skills to be able to clinic that while I'm actually doing it, but I'm not going to go there. So let's do this, guys. Let's open up our manuals to class composition, page 18. Class composition, page 18. So at the top, it says 3rd step, balancing postures. Balancing and back bending, it should say probably in your manual. It should balancing postures, balancing back bending. We've already clinicked this, obviously, but I do want to go over this part because it gets into the detail of it, right? And so balancing postures are a wonderful metaphor for our need to find equanimity in our lives. They require stability and flexibility, strength and openness, lightheartedness and a focused mind. Standing bow is a common pinnacle pose in this step. At this point, the lines of the body have been thoroughly opened and prepared, but special emphasis should be given to balancing, back bending, hips, and hamstrings. Obviously, those are the simple components that build, right? The simple to complex idea. It is important to understand the special relationship between the superficial and deep front line of the body. This is the first time the deep front line is being accessed. So the special relationship that we're talking about is simply this. The superficial front line of the body needs to be open in order to open up the deep front line. And so we've done the work to open up the superficial front line of the body. We isolate hip extension, we isolate spine extension, we isolate the components that create the standing bow, which is the first time we potentially, I say potentially because not all your students are going to, but it's the first time we potentially access the deep front line of the body. And then it says standing bow is a common pinnacle. The caveat to that would be a level 2 class. So if I was teaching a level 2 class, I may decide instead of standing bow to do dancer. Dancer's a great pose. So basically in my pinnacle, I want balancing and I want deep front line opening. If I were to choose a different pinnacle for this. All right, so I want a balancing and a deep front line opening. Cool? And so we just went over that. We went to child's pose, lizard lunge, half splits, full splits, low lunge, back bend, eagle, standing bow, and I was able to throw tree in there. Cool? So let's look at 4th step, inversions. So at this moment of the sequence, all lines have been opened, strengthened, and refined. We have also just practiced balancing in the previous step. This step is about learning to balance upside down. When we say balance, we don't mean like in the true sense of balancing, like one arm. We mean both hands, but it's challenging to find your balance is what we're saying there, right? To balance upside down, using all the lines to stabilize us in space. Think about this, guys. When you're in a forearm balance or a handstand, especially a handstand, every single line, it needs to be integrated there, right? Every single line needs to come into play to hold us there. You think of the arm lines, right? The functional lines, obviously, right? The superficial front line, the superficial back line, because I'm doing this. The lateral lines from me going this way, right? The deep front line to lock it all in. Every line is axis. This is kind of the cool part, one of the cool pieces about doing inversions, handstands or forearm balances, is all lines have to come into play to hold me stationary. Let's figure out where I am using stabilization. Many students are intimidated by being inverted and lack the strength to do so safely. If they cannot attempt the pinnacle of handstand or forearm balance, inversion preparations will help strengthen and integrate the body to prepare students so that they may one day feel comfortable practicing those deeper expressions. So this is what I was talking about before. The build into those poses create the whole step simply because it's what's needed to, you think about the idea of simple to complex. If I do a dolphin, it's a simple expression. The build from there would be to walk my feet up and stack the body more, right? They're simple, and then simple, take one leg up, they're simple, and then pulse, they're simple, hold it upside down with the legs split out wide, right? They're simple, pulling the legs together, or even before that, wall work, right? It builds to that complex experience. And so the cool thing is for us as teachers is to be able to take somebody and just allow them, there's almost some convincing for them because they're like, no, I can't do inversions. I'll hear this all the time. They're like, no, I can't do inversions. Or even worse, they'll say, I can't do forearm balance or handstand, but I can do a headstand. I've heard that so many times in class. And I'm like, no. You don't need to be doing a headstand. The majority of the population should not do a headstand. Like you guys have skilled bodies. If you wanted to pull off a headstand, you may be okay with it, right? You could pull it off because you have the body contour, the musculature that could support the neck upside down. But if you think about it anatomically, like when we do, when we just stand in mountain pose, we're not carrying the totality of our weight in our spine, right? The spine is just carrying the upper body. Literally from the coccyx, the very bottom of the spine, all the way up from there, that's all it's carrying. It's not carrying the weight of the legs, right? And if you think about the structure of the spine, you go from the cervical vertebrae that are very thin, very mobile, to the thoracic region, which get a little bit thicker, to the lumbar region, which become very thick and broad. Nature did that on purpose, right? Because the spine, as it goes down, starts to carry more weight of the body. And those the lower portion of the vertebral column is built that way because it's carrying that weight, right? And it becomes less mobile in comparison to the upper spinal region, right? Like the cervical region compared to the lumbar region is way more flexible. The thoracic region would be just as flexible, but it has a rib cage attached to it, and it overlaps each other like the scales of a fish. So the structure of it doesn't make it as mobile, but you guys get my point, right? Now, a headstand, what we're asking people to do in a headstand is to flip that upside down, take the cervical region of the spine, the neck, right? The neck vertebrae, take that small mobile place and put the entire weight of the body on it, including the legs, right? This is where, so every single pose has a risk and has reward, right? And what we want to try to balance in all of our teaching and all of our poses is to keep the reward way higher than the risk. Headstands are more like that, or even more like this. You guys can't see my hands, but the risk is so much higher than the reward, right? So that's my soapbox on why we don't teach headstands, why as teachers in trying to keep people young and feeling good, I would hold serve on headstands unless you're doing a private with somebody and they're hell-bent on doing a headstand and you know that they have the body for it or whatever the scenario is. And just to save your ass, if somebody does a headstand, hurts their neck and they're like, I want to sue you for some reason. It won't happen in the yoga world, but that's my reason for not doing it, right? Anatomically, it doesn't make sense. And the risk is way higher than the reward. You guys good with that? So, form balance, handstands, we build and people can feel successful even if they just can do a down dog or dolphin. Cool? Okay, so let's jump real fast. So we're gonna cover inversions in the morning. I'm gonna have Chris, I'll make him do them, have him flip upside down. And so let's go to page 19. So the fifth step, and you can see the dolphin, forearm stand, down dog, downward facing dog to handstand. That's the simple progression that we're gonna break down tomorrow for you guys. Fifth step, core strengthening. In general, the core refers to the body minus the legs and arms. Functional movements are highly dependent on the core, and lack of core development can result in poor posture and predisposition to injury. The major muscles of the core reside in the area of the belly and the mid and lower back, and peripherally include the hips, the shoulders, and the neck. Strengthening of these areas, of these core areas, is very important to stabilize the body and maintain good posture for an entire lifetime. Strengthening sequences during this step infuse blood to the muscles of the front body, preparing the deep front line for its opening back bends. Poses that strengthen the muscles of the superficial back line not only create stability in the body, but also ready us for back bends in the next step. And then we're going to cover jump through, core work, boat pose, pickup, lotus, and then full lotus. So we'll do that whole breakdown. But there was strengthening the core areas. So when people age, right? So with this idea, with our paradigm of what we're doing on our mat to stay young, when people age, what they lose, the two core principles of what they lose in their body is core strength and mobility, right? It's where we're all gonna, not us, because we're gonna continue to practice our whole lives, but where our parents, our grandparents, people in our lives, friends that are aging, what you'll see is lack of core strength and lack of mobility. What our practice addresses is core strength and mobility. Right? Simply by getting on our mats and doing a systematic movement, especially when it's based around the myofascial lines of the body, we address core strength and we address mobility. This is the key to staying young, right? We have to address those areas. And so when we're talking about the core, simply when we're doing core movements, we're gonna look at doing spinal flexion. So there are really two types of core work. There's isometric core work, like a plank or a forearm plank, or something like mountain climbers kind of bridge that gap because of the movement. You start to get that flexion of the trunk. But the idea is when we do core work, we want to get flexion of the trunk combined, if you want to, combine with an isometric movement. And so what I'm saying is when I'm sequencing, I won't just do a forearm plank or a plank and let that be my core work, because I want to specifically begin to heat up the core of the body, the deep front line of the body. I want to heat up the core of the body, right? Along with the other muscles that are not just deep front line, but are superficial front line and some of the other ones. But because the reason, guys, is because in the very next step, we're going to do back bends and open the area, right? And so if you can imagine it like a piece of Laffy Taffy, where when it's cold and you bend it, it breaks, right? The core work heats it up, so when you bend it, it becomes open. And that's kind of the idea of it. When we do the core work, we're infusing blood into that area. We're warming up that specific area so that when we reverse it and start doing back bends, those muscles, that area is ready to do deep back bends, right? And still, even with back bends, we're going to do a progressive build into the deeper back bends. But that's the idea. So when I'm sequencing, when you guys are sequencing, do a pulsing action, right? Work the pulsing action and infuse isometric movements if you'd like to. But avoid, if you can, avoid just straight isometric movements. It'll heat it up, but it won't heat it up as efficiently as the flexion of the spine, if that makes sense. You guys good with that? Cool. Okay, so tomorrow morning we're going to cover, we'll do inversions, we'll do a full breakdown of inversions, we'll do a full breakdown of the core work. And the core work simply is, when you were looking at this idea of simple to complex, look at your core work as a build of simple to complex and work it that way. And a sequence that I'll do with core work is go down to the back, legs up, and then do toe touches, right, to get the spinal flexion. And then I'll come back down and do leg raises, right? So work that side, and then do V's, where you're simply going simple toe touches, simple leg raises to complex V's, something like that. We leave it open as far as the sequencing goes because there's tons and tons and tons of core work that you could do. But even in your core work, have the vision of working a simple to complex experience with it. And your build, your pinnacle for that is just going to be your core peak experience. Cool? Sweet. All right.
Hey, John.
Hey, John, I got a quick observation for you, just in my own practice. You guys said early on in the class talking about integration and strength before flexibility. And in my own personal experience in the last several months of concentrating on what you guys are talking about on opposing forces, adductors and abductors in the hips, particularly for me, and in the core and the back for me. As I've gotten my core stronger, my back bends all of a sudden just started opening up, which I thought was really interesting, but it falls in line with what you were talking about.
Yeah, man.
As my core got stronger, it's like, okay, my body is no longer afraid of getting out of that position. So I'm able to get into deeper back bends because of having a stronger core. So it's so far it's working for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Really cool, man. There's a few aspects in what Ben said that are interesting because it's probably not the case for you, Ben, but what you'll see with a lot of your students is when they focus on strengthening that area of the body, especially deep front line, but when we focus on the strength of a particular line, or all the lines, honestly, but a particular line, the other lines will relax, right? It's the idea of weakness precedes tightness. If one of my myofascial lines are weak, the other lines, depending on what line it is, the other lines tighten up because they have to do the work of that line, right? The postural function of the line that's weak, the other lines have to take over that postural function because we want to stand, right? The body needs to still do what it does. So if we work that strengthening of that line, it becomes strong. All of a sudden, it lets go, right? It does, like the other lines let go. It doesn't have, those other lines don't have to do the work of the line. And all of a sudden, like Ben's described it, a back bend goes deeper. Something happens, like, whoa, all of a sudden I feel more open, right? That's this idea of strength needs precede flexibility. I got to get strong first and then open. Probably not the case for you, Ben. I imagine your lines, there wasn't probably a weak line, but what you're experiencing is the ability to have parts of the body be strong enough to support deeper back bends, So that's cool. Thanks for the share, man. Cool. Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up? Questions, comments? Thank you for, I'll say something. Thank you for the flexibility and being able to work with all of a sudden we're shifted into this virtual world and like we literally had thoughts of maybe we can all get together in one of the bigger ballrooms and just be 6 feet apart from each other. Right? I don't know. I think only half of you would show up. Like, no way, I'm not doing it. Anyway, so I appreciate you guys being flexible with this and then hanging with us as we stumble forward with the tech and this being new and like, all right, what works? Other camera, this camera, distancing, and all that other stuff. So thanks for rocking and rolling. Appreciate it. All right, let's close on purpose. All right. So let's come to a comfortable seat. Ground the sit bones and stack the spine long. Close the eyes. And let's share in the breath. Take a long inhale. And a long exhale. Bring your hands to heart center prayer position. And just take a moment to quietly thank the people that have joined us, the people that are around us, the people that are with us in this journey. And then I want to thank you for the blessing of your presence, for your strength and your commitment. Let's join our voices to create one voice, one sound of Om. Take a big inhale. Namaste. Right, thank you guys.
Good seeing everybody.
See you guys. Let me try to unmute. I was trying to unmute everybody. You guys can unmute yourselves and say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you. Guys.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. You can wave bye real quick.
Bye, Bree.
Bye. You want to come wave bye? Just come say bye. Who is it? My classmates. Wave bye. Bye-bye.
Cute.
Bye-bye.
Cute.
Bye-bye. Sorry.
You guys.
Thank you, John.
8:30 in the morning.
8:30.
Again. Bye.
All right, say bye.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
Okay.